3 tricks to instantly double your accuracy. Trick number 1, the Rockley method. So with this method, we're actually going to start by upping your sensitivity. So for example, if you play on 4.00, move it up to 4.5. It doesn't have to be anything crazy higher. And then we're going to use this sensitivity for 2 or 3 games. And then after you do that, we're going to bring it back down to where you normally play. And you may be asking yourself, why would this help me aim better? Well, it's like the scene from Naruto where Rockley and Gaara are fighting each other in the Chunin exams. Rockley was getting that booty whipped and couldn't even get near to landing a blow on Gaara. But then he pulls out his trump card. He removes the ankle weights that he trained with for day and night for the past several years.
Alright, Lee, take him off.
Really? Really? Now I will be able to move freely.
Guy, you are too much.
And once he removed those weights, it allowed him to move much faster and much more precisely to get around Gaara's sand defense. And then he goes absolutely bonkers on him, shocking everyone.
So fast.
Amazing.
And now yes, that is just a scene from an anime, but this is going to trick your brain into making you feel as if you have more control over your crosshair when you lower it back down, which in turn will make you much more confident and much more comfortable when you engage in those duels. Trick number 2, turn off your crosshair for a few games. I call this one the ceiling fan trick, and I'll elaborate more on that later. And to start this section off, I'm going to let C9nothing, a former CSGO pro who used to play with Shroud, explain this one for you.
Right, so really all the crosshair is a reference point for the center of your screen. So you see how I'm kind of like, I don't even know where my crosshair is. I'm going to occasionally whiff, especially as it gets longer distance. But this just shows you that a lot of times the center of your screen is something you subconsciously see, right? So when you have a crosshair that works for you, that's all that really matters.
Now, if you guys had watched my previous video on 3 tips to instantly double your accuracy, you may remember that I had told you to look at your enemy instead of looking at your crosshair. And what does this trick make you do? Well, exactly that. This will force you to have to look at your enemies rather than staring at your crosshair. And for those of you that haven't watched my past video, you may be wondering why I'm telling you to not look at your crosshair. You may even think that it sounds completely counterintuitive to hitting more shots. You may even ask, don't you want to be looking where you're aiming? And it's that exactly. I want you to be looking exactly where you're aiming. And since we always intuitively know where the center of our screen is, we want to track and look at the enemy so it makes it an easier judgment for us to know how far we have to adjust to hit that shot. It's like whenever you're staring at a ceiling fan that's on and spinning around. Whenever you stare at the center mass of the fan, it will cause everything to be a blur. But if you stare at a single blade, the exact opposite will actually happen, and it will make that blade much more clear and to be able to watch and follow and track. And now, trick number 3. This is probably the most boring one on the list, but it's also probably the most important of them all. And that's to stay hydrated. To start this section, I'm going to show you 2 different clips of Casey Thomas, who is a well-known performance dietitian that works heavily in the esports industry. And let's go ahead and roll clip number 1.
If you have just a 1% dehydration, just 1% dehydration, this significantly, you can measure this, and it's linear. Okay, it's a linear relationship. So the degree of your dehydration is the degree of what I'm about to say. We can measure the impairments to every single, it doesn't matter what it is, every single cognitive metric that we look at gets impaired as a function of dehydration, and it starts at just 1%.
So with knowing that, I'd also like to tell you that 75% of Americans are chronically dehydrated. So with 75% of Americans being chronically dehydrated, I'm willing to bet that the majority of you watching are in that same exact boat, especially with most of us being gamers that like to drink soda and sit in front of our computers most day when we have nothing to do, myself included. And guys, on top of that, your brain is like a sponge. It's made up of 70 to 75% water, and when you're dehydrated, your brain actually starts to shrink a bit. But there is hope.
to measure with hydration. This is the quickest thing that we can do, short of like a pharmaceutical or a supplement. This is the quickest thing that we can leverage, and it only takes 24 to 48 hours to adjust your hydration status. And because of this, this means that if you just take your hydration seriously for like 2 days, then boom. If that was a factor that was holding you back, now it's not a factor that's holding you back.
So guys, it makes sense that when we're dehydrated, we're not going to function as well as if we were completely hydrated, but luckily it's just a quick and easy fix to just drink some more water. And I'm not saying you can't ever drink your coffee or soda, but just knock it down to 1 or 2 a day. So don't be a raisin brain, be a grape, be nice and juicy. Don't forget to like and subscribe.